Hello again. It's been about 2 weeks since I put the beer into the secondary fermenters. After a week, I started to cold crash it, and I've got the beer over here, some of it here in my keezer. You can look, there's some of it down there in the back. And then I've got some of it in another refrigerator. It's been cold crashing now for a little over a week, and I'm gonna bottle today. And I'm gonna keg today. Over here, if you look, I've got all my bottles all sanitized. I'm using my mash tun as a bottling bucket because I don't have a bottling vessel large enough to hold 8 gallons worth of beer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix both of the 4.5 gallon fermenters full of beer into my bottling bucket. I will first drain off enough beer to fill my keg, and whatever's left I'm going to put into bottles. Get started here in a little minute. Okay, I've taken one of my fermenters out of the fridge, got it sitting up here at a higher level than my mash tun so I can siphon things out. As with anything beer related, I want to make sure I keep as much oxygen as possible out of the beer when I'm transferring it from one vessel to another. So I'm gonna got a tube here in my Star San. I'm gonna spray the bottom of my thing with some Star San solution. Put those in. Try and keep that as low as possible in the bucket. And I'm going to slowly open up my... Okay. It's draining. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and we'll take a quick look. Now I've had my mash tun soaking with Star San for quite a while, and boy, that looks really clear. Cold crashing seemed to work pretty good. Let's open up my fermenter and see what we got here. Nothing on the top. This is going to be great. Now, one thing I am going to do as I'm transferring this wort is I'm going to take a final gravity reading. Now, when I started this, my gravity was at about 1.063. Then I diluted it so I could get it down to the 1.5, and it should be right around 1.08, or excuse me, 1.18. And let's see. And sure enough, that's where it is. Right at 1.018, 1.019. I doubt you're going to be able to see that, but trust me, that's where it's at. Okay, as I'm getting the last little bit of good beer out of here, you'll notice there's a bunch of sediment at the bottom. I'm going to be real careful to just get beer, not sediment. That's all the yeast and trub that settled at the bottom. Getting close to about ready to stop here. Yeah, I'm gonna call it enough. I may try getting a little bit more of that out directly into a bottle, but I think we're good. A lot of excess crap around the bottom of that. Okay, time to do the same thing with the second one. I'm gonna pull my airlock. I'll get the cap off while we're draining. There it goes. Now this should mix it pretty good. And again, put it in the keg first, and then, as I said, whatever's left over a bottle. Okay, starting to get to the bottom of the second vessel. And tilt it up a little bit. Get it flowing pretty good again. Just slowly draining out now. Not nearly as much surface pressure as there was. Trying to do this without mixing it up. And I'm mixing it up. Gotta be careful here. Slow down. See, there's still a bunch of sediment at the bottom there. Didn't stir it up too bad, so we're in good shape. Okay, got everything in the mash tun / bottling bucket. Got my sanitized corny here. Got my sanitized tube. Put that in there and open it up. Push that thing down the bottom so that it stays underwater. I don't want to oxygenate, like I said. Now, one thing I did or did not do that some guys do is I did not purge my keg prior to putting the beer in. Purge it of CO2. The way I see it, the beer itself is going to purge it of any air that's in there. And once I get it closed up, I will bleed it a couple times to get the oxygen out and get a good CO2 blanket in there. And I am going to carbonate it with CO2, so that'll get into the beer. I don't think I'll have any issues from that. Okay, now the keg's about half full. Still coming in. You can see the Star Sand bubbles coming up. Of course, anybody who knows Star Sand knows that's not going to hurt anything. Those bubbles are some of the strongest bubbles. They do not like to pop. But eventually they'll work their way up to the top and probably overflow the top a little bit and give me a little more sanitation around the top. Now this keg has been soaking in OxyClean for a couple of weeks. Then I rinsed it out and then rinsed it with Star Sand. And float some Star Sand through the dip tubes and the gas vent. So, gas inlet. So it's in pretty good shape. I've got my lid soaking in Star Sand right now. And when it's time, I'll pull that out. And as you can see, here it comes. Now my gas inlet doesn't have a tube that goes down into the keg. It's pretty much flush with the inside. So I'm going to fill this pretty full. Stop it for a little bit. Get some of the bubbles out so I can see where the beer is at. We've still got plenty of room. Lots of bubbles, but no beer yet. Still doing pretty good in here. Still got plenty of beer in there. I'm going to take a chance at overflowing until I kind of get hope I can see beer on top. And over here to the side again is my gas inlet. And I'm almost to the top here. Just a little more. And I think I'm about ready to call it done. I'll call it done now. Okay, now that I filled the keg, I've got some beer left over. I know approximately how much there is. There's going to be somewhere between 3 and 4 gallons, but I want to be more accurate because I need to add some priming sugar to it before I put it in the bottles. So, what I'm going to do is transfer it from the mash tun / big bottling bucket to a standard size bottling bucket that I can measure a little more accurately. I'm going to be real careful. Again, I don't want to introduce oxygen to it. All I want to do is transfer the beer. So, here we go. Now, it's been a while since I started this, so any sediment that might have been stirred up before should have settled to the bottom of the mash tun / big bottling bucket, and I shouldn't have any more of a transfer. So we'll give that a minute, and when it's done and I know how much I have in there, I will go ahead and measure out my sugar and make some prime. Time to get started bottling. First thing I'm going to do is add my priming sugar. Looked up the carbonation volume that an Irish stout / red ale is supposed to have, and it's about 2.0. I figured I've got 2.6 gallons of beer left, so that told me that I needed about 1.6 ounces of corn sugar and about a cup and a half of water. I'm going to go ahead and pour that into its work. Pour it slow because I don't want to, again, get too much oxygen in here. And once I do that, let's take a spoon and stir it around. Not agitating too much, just trying to get it so that it's mixed in the bottle. Okay, that should do it. Now comes the bottling time. If you look over here, I've got my sculpture of beer bottles, drying rack. Down here I've got an upside down bucket that I'll use as kind of a stand for the bottles as I do them. On the table there I've got some caps soaking in Star San. I know there's a little bit of debate on whether or not you want to soak your caps before you use them. I do. They're oxygen absorbing caps, but they aren't going to lose their oxygen absorption capabilities sitting in Star San for 10 minutes. They're going to be on the beer for weeks and weeks or years maybe. Alright, there's my ale pail. Hit my feet where you can't really see it. I've got a bucket of Star San, and in that bucket I've got my racking cane. Good little device. It's got a spring-loaded tip on the bottom that, well, if you look here, lets water out when it's pushed down, or in this case beer out. Got some tubing here. Been soaking in the Star San too. Pull that up a little, get a good seal. Star San on that. Okay. Go ahead and put my cap back on there. And that's ready to go. Just gonna stick it up for a second. Okay. Grab myself a handful of bottles. I calculated that with the 2.6 gallons of beer I have, I'm going to use approximately 30 bottles. So, got about 8 gallons of beer, 5 gallons in the keg, 2.6 in bottles. Here's my bottler. Now, when I bottle, I usually cap about every dozen, just because I don't like stopping. But what I will do is, now one thing with the racking cane, I don't know if you can, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit on there. If you push down, it lets out beer, and when you let up on it, the beer should stop flowing. And let's get into the top here. I fill it right to the top, then lift the cane out, and that leaves just about a perfect amount of headspace. Repeat this process over and over and over. Now, while I'm doing that, with one hand, I'm going to put a cap on the bottle I just did. Keep anything out of it. Said, going to be doing this about 30 times. the actual performance of the bottling function, not a very big deal. But it did take a long time to get to this point. I triple washed these bottles, washed them in regular dishwashing soap in the sink, then soaked them for a little while in OxyClean, and then rinsed them in Star Sand to get them nice and sanitary. Most of these bottles are reclaimed bottles, pulled out of recycle bins or from 6-packs I've had the pleasure of drinking, or friends had the pleasure of drinking and gave me the 6-packs. Collected a number of them over time, and I just noticed that one of my bottles is a screw top bottle. Can't use it, so I'm going to have to pour that one back into the thing. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop right now. We'll pick it up in a little bit. Okay, there you have it. Looks like about 27 bottles. I calculated about 28, so I came a little short. One thing I do want to mention, a couple things. First of all, the last bottle I did, this one right here, I put a mark on the top of the bottle that said that was my last bottle, because the last bottle, this one right here, always has some sediment in it over and above what you would normally get the other. Because if you look at the bottom of the ale pail, and I had to pour some out to get it, there's all kinds of crud in the bottom. Even after going from fermenter to mash tun bottling bucket to regular bottling bucket, there's always going to be some stuff settling out, and you're always going to do it. Well, now that I've got everything bottled, now you'll notice I just put the caps on top. Now I got to cap them. I mean, actually do the capping itself. Pretty straightforward process if you got the capping tool like I have here. And I'm just going to focus in over there, since this is no doubt a two-handed process. Nicely. Take it. Use the capper. It's got a little cup on the top. Sits right on top of there. Lever it down. And there you have it. Nice capped bottle of beer. Repeat that another 27 more times. 26 more times. Alright. Nice. Over there. Now, one thing I did here, I kind of thought a bit ahead and tried to match up bottles for 6 packs. So that's 6 small, 6 tall, 6 short, 6 tall. Just kind of an anal thing. One of the reasons I used the bucket when I bottle, if you look, there's definitely a little bit of spill over here. So when I'm done here, I'll probably dip each of these bottles in a bucket of water and get any stickiness off the outside of them, so when they're bottle carbonating, they won't get all sticky on us. Well, that's it. Start to finish, brew into bottle. Now it's just a matter of waiting for this stuff for 3 to 4 weeks to fully carbonate, and the keg ought to be carbonated and sometime within the next 4 or 5 days. I'll definitely be testing it. The one bottle that I force carbonated with the tire adapter thing, I'll be testing that tonight. As I said, this is my first video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. Leave me any comments, and I hope to do some more. Take care. Cheers. One additional note, thing that I have found really handy: take your Sharpie, put some kind of a letter or tag or symbol or something on top of each of these bottles on the bottle cap so you know what it is. I typically will label mine, and I take labels, print them off on a laser printer or an inkjet printer, and take a sponge in a little Tupperware container and put some milk on it and put the label down on the top of the sponge with the milk on it. Makes it just sticky enough, it sticks to the bottle. After it dries, it's not going to come off until you soak it in water for a minute or two, and it doesn't come off in the refrigerator or the keezer. Anyway, just another little tidbit. Cheers. Hello again. It's been about 5 days since I put the beer in the corny keg and bottled it, and I'm going to take a little taste. Let's see how it turned out. There's the keezer. Pop that thing open. Nice glass. Husker end. A little bit of foam, a little carbonation. Nice color. Phone staying up pretty good. Now comes the proof. Oh, that is smooth. Well worth the effort. Now, one last thing I want to show you. As I've been working this week, got a couple new toys. Counterflow wort chiller. Made this week. Notice I have a small copper tube inside a garden hose, bunch of fittings in the side, connecting everything together. The small tube goes through the hose, and it's got wire wrapped around it so it'll agitate the water. Water goes in here at the bottom, out here at the top. Wort comes in here at the top, out here at the bottom, nice and chilled. The other new toy I got, which is going to make everything a lot easier for me. If you remember, I had to split all my boils in half when I was putting the wort in buckets and putting it in the boiler. Had to split it down. Got me a chugger pump. Cannot wait to use that this weekend. Inflow here, valve in the outflow. This is going to be sweet. Anyway, thanks for taking the time and watching the video. I hope you learned something. Hoping to make some more. The counterflow wort chiller, I did make a video showing how it worked, and it cooled boiling water down to 60 degrees in one cycle through it. Pretty amazing. Watch that video. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Cheers.